Hi, I'm Alaya I am a co-founder and director of Para Bukas, an Asia-based legal and policy consultancy working on climate change, the environment, and sustainable development. The sixth assessment report of the IPCC is quite significant for the Philippines in terms of what to expect from the climate crisis. The report doesn't really say anything new, but rather emphasizes and proves with more scientific authority than ever just how dire our situation is as a globe, as humanity. All regions of the world will be affected by increased disasters, extreme temperature rise in some areas, and extreme cold in others. But even if all regions of the world will be affected, it is still the most vulnerable countries who will bear the worst of the brunt. And that includes the Philippines. The Philippines has always been among the most vulnerable countries in the world in terms of disasters and climate impacts. And the sixth assessment report only bolsters further just how serious the situation is for the Philippines and for the Filipino people. It has implications on our food security, on our livelihoods, the sustainability and resilience of our ecosystems and the way of life of Filipinos, our ability to adapt quickly and sufficiently to these disasters. And it also has implications on what the Philippines should be doing in terms of transitioning to renewable energy, doing our best to implement our adaptation activities with mitigation co-benefits. And I think among the ways that the Philippines can improve its climate change strategies is to really emphasize the reliance on science. The IPCC report is so important in terms of providing a basis for concrete actions for every country, every community, various organizations and stakeholders. So this should not be seen as merely something to be implemented, something that should be used by other countries or just the UNFCCC. Each country, including the Philippines, should take these scientific information and really try to understand what should be done to translate this information into programs and policies that will match what the report is saying and to enable us to adapt and adopt to the changes that are coming. And I think this means that various stakeholders should be working together even more closely than before, in particular policymakers and scientists and research institutions. Many sectors, not just in the Philippines, but including the Philippines, tend to work in silos. So researchers tend to talk among themselves and the academe, policymakers talk to one another with government agencies and maybe lawyers. And economists will provide advice, but do not necessarily, the stakeholders do not necessarily come together in a systematic and efficient way so that policy and economic strategies reflect and are responsive to what the science is saying. And the youth also have a very big role to play. We are really seeing now the rise in the enthusiasm and passion of the youth to participate in climate action. And we should be involving the youth, and the youth also should be looking into the science, being hungry for information, seeing how they can be involved in concrete ways. And as adults, we should be providing them with these platforms to include them in conversations and to actually listen to them and pay heed to what they are demanding, because we are leaving this world to them and to our children's children. And so they should be really at the seat of the table and actively participating.